I wanted to be at Texas State. I chose to be at Texas State. I'm from Texas. That was important to me. I always knew if the right guy got this job, you better watch out.
You better watch out. I tried to warn y'all. This is Win Now or Get Bent, episode 123. If you don't already know, I'm Kev Tardello, coming to you on Sunday, September 3rd. And the Bobcats took back Texas. Let's go. Down go the Baylor Bears. Hold on, let's set the mood. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, there you go. Hold on, let me sip this victory beer real quick. Oh, yeah, you like the koozie? Shout out. Fan sent me that one. That was very cool. I'll look up his at and I'll throw it in a tweet, but shout out to this koozie. If you're watching on the video, you saw me put on the Take Back Texas hat, sipping a beer from a Win Now or Get Bent koozie. Feels good. Get bent, Bears. Get bent, Bears. What a win for the Bobcats. Huge, massive upset over the Baylor Bears. What was it, 27.5-point underdogs? Didn't matter. The Bobcats hadn't beaten the Baylor in 114-year history, 9 games since 1909. No wins over the Baylor Bears in football. Doesn't matter. Bobcats got the win. Texas State hasn't beaten a P5 program, at least since being FBS. They haven't beaten a P5 program since being at this level. Doesn't matter. Cats got the W. What a win. TJ Finley, the starter. The GJ Kinney era is here. It's funny, today is September 3rd because I remember being in his office and looking at a football. It was a commemorative football from Incarnate Word on September 3rd of last year, commemorating his very first win as a coach. And then his very first win as a coach at Texas State, day before that day. And now today is the 1-year anniversary of his very first win in Incarnate Word, and he has another win at Texas State over the Baylor Bears. Wow. That was way too long on the opening part. I meant to dive into the sponsor. This episode is sponsored by TGC, the Galindo Collective, TGC LLC, thegalindocollective.com. That's GALINDO collective.com. A team of professional consultants dedicated to helping others realize their business potential through people, planning, and practice. Their services cover a wide range of areas such as business strategy, marketing, human resources, and financial planning. They offer full-service solutions on general business evaluations, but specialize in residential and rental properties, commercial operations, and construction. If you own property and want to maximize its profitability, contact TGC at thegalindocollective.com and follow their social media platforms on Twitter at TGC_LLC and on Instagram and Facebook at The Galindo Collective. Shout out to Rick Galindo, a true Texas State sicko, a Texas State grad himself. I know he was on cloud 9 after last night, just like the rest of us. How about that? He's sponsoring us this whole season. Very first game sponsored by TGC. Huge upset over the Baylor Bears. Coincidence? I think not. Throw your support at the Galindo Collective, GALINDO, galindocollective.com. All right, back to some Bobcats. Let's talk football. I need another sip after that ad read. Oh yeah, it's like 1 o'clock on Sunday right now, and it's not quite 5 o'clock, but we're celebrating today, and just today only. There's a lot more season left, but we'll get to that. Let's break down tonight. First off, 31-42 win for the Bobcats. TJ Finley got the start, as I was saying. Some of you were following along on social media with us at WNOGB on Twitter. At Win Now or Get Bent on Twitter. It's WNOGB on Instagram. Check us out on Instagram. We're doing some more stuff there. But if you're following along on Twitter, then you saw that we put out a video of the team coming off the bus because the Wizards, Zachary Webb, got there nice and early, posted up. They were coming off the bus. We saw GJ Kinney off first, then the rest of the coaches, and the very first player, TJ Finley. Right then, me and the Wizard looked at each other. We're like, okay, done deal. We're pretty sure we know the situation. And he and I, we were at camp. It's been the really cool part about camp in this season. It's been the first time where I've had a confidant, where somebody I can bounce ideas off of and like, hey, what are you seeing? What do you think of this? And we both took a look at the quarterback situation. We're like, that arm on TJ is just special. It's different. It's different than the other guys out there. Malik Hornsby's ability to run the ball is different as well. But that arm, that's the strength in his arm I haven't seen here, and I feel like I've been saying that on the pod, and I didn't feel like it was like hitting home as much because you can't really see it. But I feel like now, since everyone gets to see it, you got to see it on TV and everything, you see how strong that arm is. When he lets it out of his hand, it gets to that receiver fast. The DBs don't have a lot of time to react and get on the play. Because even he was, 22 for 30 last night? Let me pull up these stats real fast. 22 for 30, 298 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Those 7 incompletions, I didn't see one where I was like, man, that was almost picked. That was a dicey throw. That was a dangerous pass. I didn't feel that when I was watching him. Even on the throws that were inaccurate or weren't quite there, they didn't scare me. They weren't overly risky. He may have overthrown somebody or just a couple drops as well. Ashton Hawkins, that was crazy. Very unlike him, and maybe he just got the drops out early, and he got him out early in a win. So he had too many catches last year against Baylor. He had 13, so he hit his quota last season. So he had to throw in some drops, means to an average. I'm obviously saying that in jest. I'm in a great mood. I'm in the best mood. I love doing this pod all the time. I am so excited to do this pod today. I'm not going to make it too long because I said it was episode 123. It's kind of a special episode, in between episode. Got to do it. I almost did. I tried to do one last night. I didn't get home until real late. I didn't go to bed till 4. But for a little bit, I was setting up for a pod, but it was too late. I was brain dead. Needed to get some sleep, collect my thoughts. But yeah, Ashton Hawkins, like I said, a couple drops, but he still had 5 catches, 58 yards. So it's 18 catches for him combined against Baylor the last 2 years. But TJ Finley, he looked so poised. If you saw the press conference, go check it out on YouTube. I know the school uploaded it. We got to talk to GJ Kinney, TJ Finley, and Joey Hobart. And man, he just exudes confidence. You could just feel it oozing out of him when he's sitting up there at the podium. You could tell it's a guy who's dealt with media at bigger areas at these SEC programs, at Auburn, at LSU. I felt it the first time I interviewed him on Texas State Media Day back on August 18th. That's on our YouTube channel if you haven't seen that. And I could feel it when just breaking down his throwing mechanics, talking about the pressure he felt at those other schools. I could just tell he was really poised. And he's a college grad as well. He's a grad transfer here. So he's a really sharp individual. Real confident and clear with his message in the press conference. I didn't like that he didn't know UTSA was a rival. But he's brand new. What are you going to do? And when it's been as one-sided as it has, how is anyone supposed to know it's a rivalry? It's really just been a beatdown over the last decade. So maybe TJ Finley can change that, turn it back into a real rivalry once again. And if there is a criticism on Finley, that fumble wasn't great. It was the third series of the game for the Bobcats, I believe. Yeah, the first series was a 3-and-out. Next one was a touchdown. Great pass to Connor Fox, set him up in the red zone, that 21-yarder. I like to see that. It was his only catch. It was the only catch by a tight end. Y'all know I love tight ends, but that was a good play. It's a good play. Didn't need more of that. And I'll talk more about the offensive sets, but let's talk about Finley and that fumble. That was I asked him about it after the game, and he was saying he hadn't been hit since last season, week 3 against Penn State, and he was trying to pocket was collapsing. Seemed like he was trying to dish it off to the running back, and it just slipped out. At least that was in his mind, and it slipped out. And Baylor recovered, led to a field goal. 2 fumbles, both of them led to field goals for the Bobcats. Dario Davenport had a fumble, I think it was the second quarter, maybe third quarter, that led to a Baylor field goal as well. So 2 turnovers led to 6 points. Some of those drops by Hawkins was something that wasn't fantastic. There was some missed coverage a little bit on defense, but it's all nitpicking. It's a win over a team they weren't supposed to beat. They weren't even supposed to be close. I was over here saying maybe they'll cover. And look at them, they won the whole damn game. She goes to show what I know right there, man. I should have been buying in. The reluctance, cautious optimism is how I tried to have it after what we've seen in the last 8 years. But I'm ready to be insufferable now. I'm ready to just everybody to not stand the Bobcats. That's what I'm looking for. Because I'll tell you what, it was pretty interesting to see how dejected everybody was at that game. even like some of the staff at Baylor in that press box. You could see it turn. They're not, they're not used to it, especially when it comes to someone they consider smaller than them, as Texas State, consider smaller than them. They are, but not last night. Bobcats weren't smaller than the Bears last night. That's for sure. But it was interesting to see in the atmosphere after the game. I brought up the press conference where GJ was talking and TJ and Joey Hobart, and it was a vibe I had never seen in there before. I mean, the school president, Dr. Kelly Damphus, Agent K Damp, you know him. He's been on the pod. He came up and dapped me up and gave me a little bro hug. Was like, let's go. He was excited. Everybody was excited. We were watching behind the media people were the videographers for the team, like Kirby and all those guys. And they're younger guys, look like 20 years old or so. And they're trying to be quiet, but they're like, let's go. Yes. Like real quiet, whispering, let's go to each other. It was a funny scene. It was great. It's nice to see the Bobcats leave a situation like that with such high hopes, because that's what I want to cover, man. And it's such a different deal too, especially with the president coming up and dapping me up and being excited about the win. When before I was treated kind of like I was an enemy, like I was here to document the downfall of the Bobcats. Nay, friends, I want to document the rise of the Bobcats. That's what I want. That's what I've always wanted. And that's why I've been, I don't know, I don't think I've been hard to my message that winning should be the standard, but it should be. And man, it feels good, doesn't it? We all feel good today. Everyone felt good leaving that game. I felt good. I felt good seeing G.J. Kinney in charge of this football team, and I felt good looking at Dr. Kelly Damphus, Don Coryell in charge of this department. And I feel good. I feel good. It feels like, oh, man, I am seeing proof of concept on something I have invested in over a decade ago. And I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for dividends to come back and say, you know what? You're right. This is a sleeping giant. It can be. Someone's got to wake it up. GJ's over there making a lot of noise, banging trash can lids together, trying to get this giant up. Woke up last night. We'll see how long it stays up because there's a long season left. A lot of season left, and it starts next week with our greatest nemesis, UTSA. But you know what? I'm not done talking about this game. This is not a very organized pod. My thoughts are everywhere. I am excited. I can't wait. We have lots of content coming out as well. Stay tuned for the cinematic recap of the game. The Wizard, he's a madman. He was out there just recording the entire game. I kept telling him, hey, man, you can come with the press box, take a break, something. I mean, that's a long game. It's a lot to hold a camera and move around, run around, back and forth on the field. And he did it. And he got some great clips, and I can't wait for y'all to see that. But we'll break down this game real fast, and then we'll talk about what it means for the future, the rest of this season. But yeah, let's go to stats. I was going to break down the scores. Y'all remember the scores. Ishmael Mahdi, 83 yards rushing, that 65-yard touchdown. That was fantastic. They only gave him 6 carries. They were trying to really spread it around. But one of those 6 carries went for a 65-yard score. Calvin Hill was kind of the bell cow with 19 carries, 56 yards. TJ Finley, 19 carries, 53 yards. I was looking at his gain, and his net was 53. Because they put the gain in there, but if they lose yards, that's the net, and that's the real number. In case you didn't know. TJ Finley, 6 carries, 18 yards, and a touchdown. He's not the fastest guy. And I even tweeted last night. People owe me apologies who told me he was immobile. He's still not a speedster out there by any means, but quick enough to get a 16-yard touchdown on a bootleg on 4th and 2. Not bad. Not bad at all. That was another thing I liked, was them going for it on 4th down. I'll make sure to talk about that. Receiving, I said it, Joey Hobart, 6 catches, 105 yards, and a touchdown. I did ask after the press conference ended, because they were we didn't get to ask all the questions in that press conference. They have to go back to Waco. It was late at night. It's like 11 at night. I'm sorry, they have to go back to San Marcos. They have to leave Waco and never go back. Ha! But it was kind of quick. And, we didn't get past more than just the general questions of like, how'd you feel about the game and blah, blah, blah. Like I started to ask the more in-depth questions. You start out with the general ones and you work your way up to the deep ones. And I started to get there when I asked TJ Finley and Joey Hobart about what was something they were preparing for while looking at Baylor. What's something that the coaches were focusing on that you felt really paid off in this game? And I liked the way they did, the way they looked at each other, and they're like, we're not giving this guy anything. That stays with us. Tells me they knew something though. What did they know? I don't know, but I love the camaraderie of those guys, the way they look at each other, and you could just tell that it's not fraying at the edges. No one's gonna pick at the threads and pull everything apart, because these guys are too close with each other to worry about all the narratives and everything and giving away all the game plan and all of that. Because hey man, I was kicking tires, I was flipping rocks. I was trying to figure out who the starting quarterback was. I was trying to find some good information for everybody. And it was hard. And that's indicative of a tight ship. That G.J. Kinney, and they believe in G.J. Kinney, that there's no detractors who are sitting there kind of mumbling to the media in the background saying, here's what's going on. Because I've gotten that in the past. And I'm sorry, it's my job to do that. And I'm going to continue to do that no matter how much I love Texas State. I have to be impartial with my coverage, but y'all know where my heart is. There's the duality of man, but that just shows that they're close and they believe enough in what they're doing that when they say, "Hey, don't talk about this," they don't talk about it because they don't want to mess it up. And so I think that's a really cool situation. Of course, as a member of the media, I want more information. I want them to give me all the stuff. But as somebody who is observing a program or a team or, whether it's a professional team or a collegiate program, and to see that the captain of the ship, if you will, is running a tight ship, and that there's not any little holes, little leaks around the bow that will eventually get bigger and sink the ship. So I think that's a pretty good thing whenever I see it. Of course, we want more information, but what's more fun than talking about gossip and information? Talking about wins. I love it. I love talking about wins. So fourth down. Let's talk about fourth down. They went for it 4 different times on fourth down. Got it all 4 times. Now I saw that, and maybe I was a little too glass half full. I was like, hey man, once they get past the 50, they're being aggressive. Especially you're playing a P5 team. You're playing a team you're not supposed to beat. They're supposed to beat you by 30. Go for it on fourth down. Field goals aren't going to win this. No way. That's how I read it. Some of y'all read the other way, like maybe they don't believe in the kicker because we didn't see one kick from Mason Shipley or anything. And again, that's more of those in-depth questions that didn't get to with GJ. It's just like a 9-minute press conference. Sometimes usually they go to a little closer to 20 minutes, at least 15. But again, different situation, extenuating circumstances on that Saturday night. But that's them going forward on fourth down. That's something they did at Incarnate Word pretty often too. And I think it was an aggressive game plan for this game specifically. And I mean, even when you look at the 4 fourth downs that they went for, I wrote them down here. 3 of the 4 were in the second quarter. 2 of them were on one drive. The very first one they went for is 4th and 5 from the Baylor 41. So once they got past the 50, they're like, all right, let's do this. 4th and 5, 6-yard pass from Finley to Hawkins. Now a little later in that drive, 4th and 4 from the Baylor 36. 6-yard run by somebody. I have bad handwriting, but they got the first down on a 6-yarder on that play. And that led to a touchdown by Denario Davenport. That 27-yarder that he had, they went for it on fourth down twice, kept that drive alive, turned into a touchdown. So right there's a touchdown over a field goal. A little later in the quarter, 4th and 2 from the Baylor 36, 6-yard run by Jamil Jeter. He then capped off that drive with that 1-yard touchdown. So there's another time they went for it on fourth down, led to a touchdown, didn't settle for a field goal. Go to the third quarter at the Baylor 16-yard line, 4th and 2. That 16-yard bootleg touchdown by TJ Finley on 4th and 2, another touchdown. So they went for it on 4 fourth downs, and got 21 points out of it. And if you look at what they won, let's say they take those 21 points and they settle for field goals instead. What's the score? That's too much math for me. They'd still win, but by 2 points. you know, but you know what I'm saying. It was more points. It was a way to really make it so that Baylor was at arm's length the whole game. I mean, Texas State came out there. They had a 3-and-out the first series, and after that, they scored on the second series, fumble on the third one. Then they controlled it from there on out. Only 3 punts the whole game. Didn't see a lot of Seamus O'Kelly. So I like them going for it on fourth down, but I will say, even saying that, I do wonder what the situation is with the kicker, if that is a lack of confidence in that kicker, or what the deal is there. Baylor went for it on fourth down as well. They missed one big fourth and one stop that was huge. The interception by Sean Holton. Just some good stingy defense that counteracted some of those fumbles that we were talking about. Now Baylor went on to score on those fumbles, 2 field goals. But yeah, that one big fourth down stop, that was real big by the Bobcats. Let's look at this team chart here, because I wanted to see how many plays they ran. 69 plays. Nice. Good job, GJ. 69 plays for 441 yards. Time of possession. Seems like they were less than Baylor. Yeah, they were. 26 minutes and 12 seconds to 33:48 for Baylor. So efficient. That's a lot of plays. 69 plays in 26 minutes. They were moving. And I really appreciated the sets. The very first offensive set that came out was that one we've talked about a lot, and that we've expected, or that I've said I've been expecting on this pod, where it was 4 receivers, a running back, no tight end. And that first series, 3-and-out. The next series, where they did score, brought the tight end out. I mentioned earlier, Connor Fox had that nice catch that got him into the red zone. But that's when they did 3 receivers, tight end, running back. Next time out, it was back to that 4 receiver running back. But they would go back and forth between that. And I think that's why when we see the 12 positions on offense and even the variation of the defense on the depth chart, we saw all the looks. They gave us all these names, and I looked at it, said 83 names. What's going on here? This isn't much of a depth chart. Even when they printed it out and they handed it to us at the game in the press box, and you have Baylor's depth chart next to Texas State's depth chart. And they're in the same amount of space on this piece of paper, but Texas State's font is like smaller, and they're all squished together because it's all these names. It's way more names than Baylor had. But they played a lot of these different variations on offense and defense. And I mentioned the 4 receiver sets or the 3 receiver sets with the tight end on offense, but on defense, that standard 4-2-5 that we've been expecting out of Jonathan Patke, that came out first. That man coverage, we saw all of that. 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, a star position DB at that nickel, 2 corners, 2 safeties. But then they'd come out, and it wasn't until the third series, though. It was 4-2-5, 4-2-5. And then it was that third series when Ben Bell came out at that outside linebacker spot where we saw 4 down linemen. And instead of the star position almost standing parallel to the 2 inside linebackers, he was standing parallel in a stand-up rush position to the defensive line. Interesting variation there. It doesn't change it too much. All it does, it's instead of that extra DB, it's an extra linebacker, extra D lineman, basically. Break down on the run a little bit, go get the quarterback. But even heck, man, when they were doing the star position, Caleb Coleman, let me look up some defensive stats for Caleb Coleman. He looked terrific, hitting dudes all over the place. I don't know why I didn't look at any of his stats. Let's see. Give me some defensive stats. Here we go. Caleb Coleman, 4 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss and a sack. Yeah, it was a sack for him. Tavian Coleman, 2 tackles for a loss and a sack as well. Shout out to Tavian. 2 Colemans. No relation, I'm sure. I can't say that. Sam Latham, 2.5 tackles for a loss and a sack. That was the other thing, defensive end. We'll talk about that. I'll keep talking about these sets a little bit. But yeah, it was they advertised multiple looks on both sides of the ball, and we saw it. And we saw it work to success as well. Defensive end, I mentioned that I wasn't sure what was going to happen there. Is Ben Bell going to start? I was like, I don't think Jordan Revels is going to start. That's what I thought going into it. I was wrong. He was a captain. He started, looked pretty good. Let's see what he registered, any stats or anything. I don't see any. I don't see any for Jordan Revels. That's surprising, but it's not too. It's not terrible. It's surprising, but not terrible. Because the rotation at that defensive line was very, very heavy. They weren't even waiting. They weren't even going series to series. It was in the series. Be the first play, and then the 2 D tackles would come out, and 2 more would come in. Man, Coleman and Terry Webb look really good, especially with no Myron Warren playing and no Jason Gold playing either. That's interesting. Myron Warren's injured. Jason Gold, I don't know. Wasn't at the game. Wasn't available yesterday. Still on the roster, but not available to play. I don't know what that means. I could speculate, but I'm not trying to guess what's going on in his life. But we'll figure out. We'll figure it out eventually. But I really like the way they looked on the inside there, especially Terry Webb. Oh, here we go. Jordan Revels, 2 tackles. Sorry, he was just hiding near the bottom. Yeah. Because that was, man, wow. I'm sorry, I'm looking at these stats. I'm getting distracted looking at them over here. It's like you're on a pod. You kind of have to talk some. No, it's an incredible deal just looking at these stats and everything on defense. I mean, Brian Holloway, 8 tackles in a TFL. They played so many guys on defense. That rotation was heavy. They played a lot of defensive backs. There wasn't a ton of rotation at linebacker. It's mainly on the defensive line and at that DB position where they were switching guys in and out. They wanted to get a full evaluation on these players, and they got it that night. Yeah. I mean, it's a great win. I said it earlier that there's a ton of season left. And man, it's hard not to celebrate. I popped the beer to start this pod. Hold on, let me. Oh, yeah. Good sip after all that talking, all that yapping. Now and just thinking about it in the context of, just myself personally, the P5 games that I've traveled to over the years, and I've had the long drive or the long travel back home after a disappointing game. I think back, I went out to Tech in 2013. I went to FSU in 2015. Went out to A&M in 2019. It's nice to, and of course Baylor last year. It's nice. It was a great drive home. It was a 2-hour drive home from Waco, and it felt like it flew by. I mean, I wasn't even listening to anything. I was just, in my head, just excited about that and the potential that it can be for this place, with a successful team. I mean, you saw the way it galvanized people last night. Keep that momentum going. I mean, this is one, and there's 11 more, potentially more if you do it right. Could be more after. We haven't seen that, a postseason. I've never covered a bowl game. I'd love to cover one. Been to a couple as a fan, Alamo Bowl, Fort Worth Bowl, but never covered one. And I sure would love that. But it's going to start next week. This week, we're here. It's Sunday. UTSA. We all know them. We all hate them. 4-0. That's the lead they have on the Bobcats since 2012. That game in 2012, I was there as a fan. My brother, UTSA grad, I don't like talking about it. But I sat in the student section with him and some of his frat brothers that game because I was so confident Bobcats were going to win. I sat in the student section wearing a Texas State shirt, and that game did not go great. May have been ejected with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That may have happened. Who knows? But and then the other 3 times it's been as a reporter. There was that one game, the extra point, Allen Arona, disappointing. It's been some. They have had our number. They've had the Bobcats number since they've had football. And that's the truth. It's a tough reality for Texas State fans to admit. It's the truth. They didn't have football, and then all of a sudden they launched a team and surpassed the Bobcats. That's the thing, is that pendulum can swing back. It's not too late. It's, they're not so they haven't lapped the Bobcats. UTSA, they're ahead, but they can be caught. It's a tough opponent this week. I know they lost to Houston. I haven't dove into that one. I've been too enthralled with this game for right now. But now after this pod is when I'm like, all right, done focusing on it, done celebrating. I'll have this beer today, and then it's like we got to look at UTSA. What's happening now? At least we don't have a quarterback controversy, right? We're all good with TJ Finley for this game. GJ Kinney said he'd like to see Malik Hornsby. He's earned a starting role and everything, and he'd like to see him get out there. And he almost put him out there towards the end of that game on Saturday. I didn't think that was fair to him. So who knows? Maybe there could still be some more packages for him. But I think right now this is TJ Finley's team. And go watch that press conference if you haven't yet. I was talking about how he's just exudes confidence. That's a leader. That's the leader of this team. And he was at some areas that he was playing at places before that were tough, really tough on players, especially quarterbacks. And I think he's just in a better situation now. And you see his arm and it's sharp. You hear him talk. It's got a sharp mind. I'm excited about the TJ Finley prospect going forward. But it's going to be a tall task against UTSA. Obviously you have Jeff Traylor, the coach there, former coach of G.J. Kinney at Gilmer in high school. Frank Harris, he's beaten the Bobcats before. He's almost a Bobcat, been there for 7 years. I saw UTSA post, somebody at UTSA posted that Frank Harris, here's a list of all the records Frank Harris has as a quarterback. And he's played 7 of the 11 years the program has existed. I hope he has some records at this point. Like, come on. You can't really, I think you got to be around for 20 years before you can be in program history, Like, that's not long enough for me. That's not a lot. There's not enough there. But I'm not trying to take away from Frank Harris. He's a fine quarterback, I'm sure. But it's a big one. It's in San Antonio. It's at the Alamo Dome. TJ Finley didn't realize it was a rivalry, but he's going to learn this week, no doubt about it. Man, I go back to that press conference. Go watch G.J. Kinney too, man. He looked like he was ready to fight. You could feel the adrenaline just pouring out of his pores. He was ready to go, man. That was quite a scene last night. It was incredible. And we'll talk more about it for sure. I'll listen back on this and be like, oh man, I should have said this and should have said that, and I'll make some notes. But for now, it's a day of celebration. It's great. If you want a little bit of a reality check, remember how great it felt after App State last year? That was fantastic. It was fleeting. Don't want it to be fleeting. Can't let it be fleeting. Can't get too high. And, obviously us as fans, there's nothing we can do about it for them on the field. But for Texas State, they need to just stay focused, stay the course, and keep with their identity. I love that they kept the identity that GJ and Mac and all these coaches, when they came over, and they didn't doubt what they were doing at Incarnate Word. They took it and they replicated it at a higher level. And even when I asked GJ about it, I was just like, how important was that? He was like, we had the number 1 offense in the country. Why would I not try to do it again? And it's like, yeah, sometimes it is that simple, but a lot of people overthink things. And they'll overthink and be like, oh man, I got to change it up. I got to keep people guessing. I got to do this. And they didn't. They stayed true to it, and it worked out. And it can work out on this level. Those wide splits on those receivers, man, that creates a lot of havoc in the middle of the field. That's an interesting deal. And you have to have the right type of quarterback who can throw it all the way there every time, all the way to the sideline. I mean, that's a long throw, especially if you're on the opposite hash. But it's a fun offense, that's for sure. Defense was great too. They were pretty salty getting all those TFLs. I think it was 10 TFLs they had, a few sacks. There were some coverage issues, but I know they were a little banged up there at times. some specifically covering tight ends. That's something I noticed. Maybe it seems like that's the job of the star position we've talked about. What was it? Drake Dabney, I think was his name, was the tight end for Baylor. Really did a lot of things against Texas State. Let's see his stats. I have stats right here. What did Dabney do for Baylor? Yeah, 6 catches, 101 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, he did a lot. It's a big old tight end there for Baylor. That could be an issue. That's something they need to clean up on for sure. Because they were talking about stuff they need to clean up on, the turnovers, and I think that might be part of it. Some of that in coverage as well. But all in all, what a win! What a time for the Bobcats! What a much needed win. This is a program that was in dire need of something like this, of someone to just bring them to life. And we open the pod with it every time. That quote, you better watch out. If the right person gets here, you better watch out, because that's all this place needs. And now it's one game, so we're not building the statue for G.J. Kinney yet. Although I'm kind of partial to putting a banner at Bobcat Stadium, Baylor Bears 2023, September 2nd, 42-31. Hang the banner. Hang it. I'll hang a banner in my office. Don't do it at Bobcat Stadium. Everybody will make fun of Texas State, but it's a great win. But yeah, there's a lot of season left, and he hasn't been anointed yet, but he's pretty damn close. It's almost there. Man, I'll tell you, you beat UTSA, that statue might get built. I might commission it myself. I mean, come on. Because that was the thing, is even when I was talking about 6-6 in the pods leading up to the season, in my head I was like, they have to get one of those first 2 games, and if one of those, it'll likely be UTSA. That Baylor one will be tough. I'm already wrong on my prediction. They got that win over Baylor, and you know what? Getting even just this Baylor win, a UTSA win will do astronomical things for the morale of this fan base and for people who show up to the game and everything. But even without that, I feel this win over Baylor will have enough momentum that first game against Jackson State is going to be pretty cool. I think there's going to be a good amount of people there. I think we're going to see some passionate fans, some rabid sickos out there on the Twitter streets. I want to see y'all out there fighting these road birds. Shout out to Atomic Punk. I still love saying road birds. Say it all the time. But it's great right now. It's just a little bit of proof of what we all believe, of what we all have already kind of known about this place, that special things can happen here if curated right. And if the right person is there, maybe G.J. Kinney, it can take this things to new heights, take it to where it needs to be. So wake up that giant, G.J. Wake him up. Do whatever you got to do, man. Make all the noise. Maybe all the lights from the scoreboard will wake him up. And light up that scoreboard. That was a good defense, too, against Baylor. I know they were a little bit down last year, but they were on the defensive coordinator. Put up 42 on them. Gosh. Most points on the road in a long time. Should have looked up that stat, but we'll save it for the next one, because we'll end it here. We'll keep this one kind of brief. I know, man, I didn't mean to go 40 minutes. I honestly meant to go like 20 minutes. Because I know the Wizards over there editing that awesome cinematic recap video from all the footage he took on Saturday. But he'll get this one out there. We're gonna listen to it on Sunday. But check out the Patreon, patreon.com/win-now-or-get-bent. I wrote a nice long 1,000-word recap. It's free. I wanted everyone to see it. I mean, you beat the Baylor Bears. You want the whole world to know all about it. So I made that one free, but $5 a month and to support us, help support the pod that you're listening to right now, and you get articles on that Patreon page. So go check that out. Our merch site, WNOGB.com. I'm wearing the shirt right now. I got the Take Back Texas hat given to me by G.J. Kinney. I had to show some love for that today, because, man, when you talk about taking back Texas, going to some of these Texas P5s, going into their house and taking a win, boy, that's a way to take it back, isn't it? Golly, get bent, Bears. Get bent. But yes, WNOGB.com for merch. Go check it out. Lots of you were wearing it while watching the game. Thank you. That warms my heart, man. It really does. It's so cool. It's special. You know, it's a cool community that we've kind of built around here, and I appreciate y'all supporting. You know, because there was a time where I mean, even when I was working my side job last year, and the baby was coming, and I was like, man, am I really doing the right thing? Do I need to smarten up and maybe do something different, do something a little safer? You know, you keep investing in this mediocre program, but you know this program isn't truly mediocre. It just has mediocre people around it. You get great people around it, and it'll really show what this program can be. And today, it feels like I was saying, proof of concept after over a decade. It just feels great. I feel so thankful for all of you buying merch and subscribing to the Patreon and liking, subscribing, and commenting and signing up your friends for our YouTube accounts and our accounts on Apple and our channels on Apple and Spotify and all of those. It feels great, especially after an awesome win like that. It feels great to be able to sit here and talk about it, document it, and share this great thing with other people who think it's a great thing. Very proud. I'm one proud Bobcat today. That's for sure. Thanks again to TGC, the GalindoCollective.com, GLINDO, GalindoCollective.com. Thanks to the wizard, Zach Webb, worked hard yesterday, working hard again today. That guy works hard all the time. It's funny, he thanked me on Twitter the other day how grateful he is, because that was his first collegiate game to actually work. And what a game it was. I mean, go to a P5 and see the Bobcats get that upset. But he thanks me, and how he's forever grateful for me, and I'm forever grateful for him. I mean, you've all witnessed it. This pod has taken a tremendous step up since he got here in February, and most of that is him. You know, I'm still just yapping away. It looks better, and we're doing more things because he has jumped in here and made it possible for us to expand this. So thank you to Zach Webb. Subscribe to the YouTube channel just for that guy. That's his baby there, man. He's getting it going. And of course, thank you, sickos. Thank you for the support. They did it. They really did the damn thing, didn't they? Man, down go the Bears. All right, everybody. Win now or get bent.